Zelensky's visit to Serbia, a European country friendly to Moscow. The official ceremony of his meeting with his Serbian counterpart already took place at 11:30 Kyiv time. They will talk about expanding economic ties, security issues, and European integration as both countries are candidates for EU membership. This is Volodymyr Zelenskyy's first visit to Belgrade. However, the Ukrainian delegation has met with Alexander VUČIČ multiple times at international forums. Elena Chernyakhova will tell us about what joint projects the parties might take on and what the delegations will be discussing. Elena, hello. What details do you have?
Natalia, hello. At these moments, a closed-door meeting between the presidents of Ukraine and Serbia is underway. It began with an official welcoming ceremony. Both national anthems were played and there was an honor guard. Everything is in accordance with diplomatic norms and customs for such a first working visit. And in fact, it's the first visit in the last, well, almost 8 years, so to speak. On the agenda, there is indeed a block of economic issues, political cooperation, and the European integration track. Well, and I can show you what we see being prepared and the place where the memorandum on future cooperation will be signed. We can see that documents are being prepared. However, what exactly will be in it, what exactly they will sign, we'll find out in just an hour. Because at 1:00 p.m. Kyiv time, a joint press conference of the two presidents is planned, and we will be able to learn the details then. Serbia is helping Ukraine with humanitarian aid and has provided energy assistance, but Serbia is not imposing sanctions. It does not support Europe's policy on this issue. In particular, this issue is also on the agenda. Yesterday, a member of the Ukrainian delegation told us about it. Let's take a listen.
This issue is not just, well, let's say a moral one, right? Obviously, perhaps, it's not entirely right today not to apply sanctions against the aggressor country while being part of the European continent. Serbia is moving towards membership in the European Union. And one of the obligations of every country moving towards EU membership is to align with those foreign policy statements, steps, and actions taken by the European Union. And, of course, we all see how successive packages of sanctions are adopted by the European Union, and those states that are not members of the European Union but are located on the European continent simply join them afterwards.
It is important to note that the president of Serbia has visited Ukraine twice during the full-scale invasion. His wife has been there more often. She is a regular participant in the summits of first ladies and gentlemen. And just last month, when Alexander VUČIČ was in Kiev, he himself stated that he was dissatisfied with the level of aid that Belgrade is providing to Kiev. So will this change after such lengthy negotiations between the presidents and the delegations? We will know very soon. We are expecting a press conference at 1:00 p.m. Kyiv time.
We are watching closely. Elena Chernyakhova was with us live from Belgrade. We are waiting for the press conference of the presidents of Ukraine and Serbia. We will be broadcasting it live at 1:00 p.m. Stay with us. 4 people, including a small child born in 2022, have died. 3 more were wounded as a result of the Russians' overnight missile attack in Kiev and the region. In the village of Pukivka, near Kiev, 4 Shahids hit a private house at once. The homestead was completely destroyed. Inside were a 4-year-old boy, his grandmother, and his grandfather. All of them died. The child's parents, his 15-year-old brother, and a neighbor who ran to help have been hospitalized. They have thermal burns. Also, a warehouse of an industrial enterprise caught fire in the Kyiv region. There are 4 injured following the Russians' night attack on the capital. The occupiers once again attacked Kyiv with ballistic missiles. As a result of the Russian attack, fires broke out in 2 districts, Holosivsky and Obolonsky. In the Holosayevsky district, garages burned over a total area of more than 1,000 square meters. There was also a fire in a non-residential building containing cardboard. They have been contained. Liquidation efforts are underway. In the Obolonsky district, a fire broke out on the premises of an enterprise. The fire has been extinguished. A Russian UAV attacked the Sumy-Kyiv passenger train. The locomotive was damaged and a fire broke out. There were no casualties. Ukrzaliznytsia reports that Russia has attacked its facilities more than 40 times over the last 5 days. 11 locomotives have been damaged. Passengers had to be evacuated from trains 350 times due to the threat of strikes. Stations, tracks, trains, and employees have come under attack. This week, 6 railway workers were killed. 3 of them had gone out to restore traffic after a drone attack and the all-clear signal. However, Russia launched a follow-up strike with a ballistic missile. Since this morning, the Russians have been terrorizing Kherson with drones. 3 city residents sustained blast injuries. Over the past day, there were 14 casualties there, including a child. Yes, the day before, the city was left without power as a result of Russian shelling. Due to the lack of power, the water utilities pumps also stopped. There are interruptions to the cold water supply in all districts. And let's ask Yaroslav Yanushevych, head of the Kherson City Military Administration, about the water and electricity supply situation today. Mr. Yaroslav, thank you for joining us. What is the current security situation in the city and the community? Are there any wounded as of now?
The security situation in the Kherson community remains tense. Russian troops do not stop their targeted terror against the civilian population. Over the past day, Kherson itself, Antonivka, Zelenivka, and Komishinyani were under enemy fire. Private, multi-storied buildings and civilian vehicles were damaged. Yes, as a result of the attacks, 14 residents of the community were wounded, including 1 child. Unfortunately, the enemy continues to strike places where civilians are located. A separate threat is posed by the extremely high intensity of enemy drones. And according to the monitoring Telegram channel Radar Kherson, throughout the day, Russian forces actively used FPV drones, reconnaissance drones, and mine-laying drones. The greatest air activity of enemy drones was observed in the Tavrisky and Shumensky micro-districts, the Zabalka and Voyenka residential areas near the railway station, Independence Avenue, the 200th anniversary of Kherson Avenue, and Unbrokenness Square. High drone activity is also continuing this morning. The enemy is periodically conducting artillery fire on residential neighborhoods. As of now, there is 1 known casualty. Also, as a result of a Russian drone attack in the city center, a 29-year-old woman was injured. She sustained a blast injury, a contusion, and an acute stress reaction. And the victim sought medical attention on her own.
And regarding the blackout in Kherson, because I was talking about the fact that the Shahid drone attack caused interruptions to electricity and water supply. What is the situation with electricity and water? Has it been possible to restore a stable supply?
Thanks to the titanic efforts of the power engineers and utility workers, it was possible to restore the power supply to a part of the city. Due to the scale of the damage, the Korabelny district, specifically the Shumensky micro-district and the residential settlement, remains partially without power. However, specialists are working in an intensified mode to restore electricity to the homes of Kherson residents as quickly as possible. It's also necessary to understand that the security situation, the constant threat of shelling and drone attacks, significantly impacts the work, and it's impossible to predict any timelines. At the same time, I want to say that the points of invincibility are operating around the clock, where people can come, charge their gadgets, and get necessary help, including, if needed, supplies of drinking and utility water.
The whole world and Ukraine were shocked by the footage of a drone hunting a civilian, a fruit vendor, and striking a civilian directly with an FPV drone. Strikes on cars have also intensified. Is there any protection at all against such drones? Is the city thinking about this? How can one protect themselves from such targeted strikes on public transport buses and civilian cars?
Yes, one of our key priorities remains expanding the network of protective structures and ensuring maximum accessibility of shelters for the community's residents. As of today, the Civil Defense Shelter Fund of the Kherson community includes 779 facilities. It consists of 138 bunkers, 371 basic shelters, and 274 mobile anti-shrapnel shelters. Work in this direction does not stop. We continue to set up new basic shelters, particularly in areas that need them and are under the greatest threat of Russian shelling. At the same time, we are installing mobile shelters where it's not possible to set up stationary protective structures. We are working on the installation of these in the private sector right now. Of course, during repair work, we also pay special attention to accessibility.
We had Unbreakable Kherson on the line with us. Always glad to see and hear you live on air. Yaroslav Yanushevych, head of the Kherson City Military Administration. The Syzran oil refinery is ablaze again. Tonight, it turned into a torch once more. Local residents started writing about the strikes around 3 o'clock. After several explosions, they began filming smoke and flames over the plant. And as of this morning, they still haven't been able to extinguish the fire. At the same time, the Russian authorities themselves haven't reported anything about the attack. This is not the first visit by Ukrainian drones to the facility, as the plant is an important Rosneft site and produces marine and motor fuel. Russian social media channels are also reporting an attack on the Ilsky oil refinery. There aren't many details yet. The occupiers are writing that all the drones were allegedly shot down, but 5 people were wounded. People have already been warned about possible internet outages. So we assume that the air defense did not work as effectively as the occupiers claim. The passage of Lindsey Graham's bill on sanctions against Russia and Iran helps increase pressure on the aggressor to end this insane Russian war. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy thanked the U.S. Senate for imposing hellish sanctions. Senators approved the bill, which introduces economic restrictions against Russia and Iran the day before. Now it will be sent to the House of Representatives for consideration and then to Trump for his signature. As a reminder, the bill by the late Republican Senator Lindsey Graham and Democrat Richard Blumenthal is intended to reduce Moscow's profits from oil and gas sales, as well as to block ways to circumvent sanctions through third countries. At the end of July, the first procedural vote took place in the U.S. Senate, which had been in the works for over 2 years. 86 senators voted in favor. The bill has already been revised twice. Initially, it was softened with the approval of the White House. In its initial version, the bill proposed imposing tariffs on more than 60 countries that purchase Russian oil and gas. Now, however, it focuses on the 5 largest importers.